We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. Today is July 6th, 5:20 a.m. I was actually off today. Did a lot of sleeping because my last shift I came in on like 4 hours of sleep. I just can't sleep well sometimes. I don't know if any of you all suffer from insomnia, but it sucks. Especially when you work, a full-time job. But yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. Well, as far as an update, not really much. Just been work, sleep, podcast, eat, haven't done much hiking. Me and Sammy's schedules are clashing, so we're gonna go out tomorrow, but we're not doing anything exciting. Just running to the store, and that's about it. But we'll get on with the show. I know I said I would do a part 2 where we were covering the Betty and Barney Hill transcripts, the Under Hypnosis. And we covered Betty Hill's transcript. So now we're going to cover Barney Hill's and hear his side of the story under hypnosis. So the doctor, as he puts Barney in a trance, Betty, of course, has been dismissed at this point. Now, Barney, I want to review with you the points of your experience when you were apparently taken aboard this unidentified object. You are back now. You are comfortable and relaxed, but you are back. Back when you were in the road. Tell me about these men. Barney says, in his usual monotone, it is important to remember that neither Barney nor Betty is aware of either his or her own story. So they were separated, and the doctor did that on purpose, and he hypnotized them separately, so that way, obviously, they wouldn't corroborate with each other. We're coming down the road, and they're waving at me. The doctor says, waving at you? Yes, their hands were not up, but down, in a motion that indicated for me to stop. He later described it as sideways, a swinging motion. Where, was there a vehicle there? No, there was no vehicle. What light was there? Headlights? It was just an orange light. An orange light, says the doctor. And I could see this orange glow, and I started to get out of my car and put one foot on the ground, and 2 men were standing beside me, helping me out. I felt very relaxed, yet very frightened. Doctor says, did they identify themselves in any way? No, they didn't say anything. Did they indicate what they wanted? They didn't say anything, and I knew I was walking or moving down the road from the position of where my car was parked, and I could see the ramp that I went up, and I closed my eyes. Where was this ramp going, the doctor says? To a doorway of a very, very funny shape, like a doorway into a strange-looking craft. And I stepped inside, and I heard a voice, just like the voice I heard on the highway back at Indian Head, telling me that no harm would come to me, and I keep my eyes closed. By the way, if you're on YouTube, I will leave a at the end of the podcast and the cast credits, I will put a video of the first episode of this, Betty's account. The doctor says, "You didn't actually hear it at that time?" Sorry. Barney says, "That was what I couldn't understand." "You thought the leader in the vehicle was talking to you?" "Yes," Barney says. "That was the voice you thought you heard?" "Yes." "You didn't actually hear it then?" "That was what I couldn't understand." So it sounds like the Gray was communicating with him telepathically. "You think it was transmitted to you or something?" "Yes. I went down this corridor, just a few steps, and into another door." "They were leading you?" says the doctor. "They were holding me on both sides, and I went in, and I thought my foot stumbled over a bulkhead right at the base of the door." "Was Betty around?" "No, Betty wasn't with me, and I saw this table, and I knew I would go over to it. I was carried, ... walked over to it. And I just knew I was to get on this table." "What did the table look like? An operating table? An examining table?" "It looked like an operating table," Barney said. "An operating table? What is the difference between an operating table and an examining table?" the doctor says. "Or an examining table, I don't know," Barney says. "I just knew that I could be supported fully on it, and it was very plain, nothing elaborate, just that I could lie on it, and my feet extended out from the bottom of it, overlapped in the position I was lying in, and I felt my shoes being removed, and I could hear a humming sound that they seemed to be making. I was very afraid to open my eyes. I had been told not to open my eyes, and it would be over with quickly, and I could feel them examining me with their hands. They looked at my back, and I could feel them touching my skin right down my back, as if they were counting my spinal column. And I felt something touch right at the base of my spine like a finger pushing, a single finger." "Did they speak at all to you?" the doctor asked. "I could only hear this low, humming sort of sound. And then I was turned over, and again I was looked at, and my mouth was open, and I could feel two fingers pulling it back. And then I heard as if more men came in, and I could feel them rustling around on the left side of the table I was lying on, and something scratched me very lightly, like a stick, against my left arm. And then these men left, and I was left with what I thought were 3 men, but the 2 who had just brought me in, and the other one, seemed to follow these 2 men. There were more than one person in the room, but only one man seemed to be moving around my body all the time. Then my shoes were put back on, and I stepped down, and I think I felt very good because I knew it was over. And again I was led to the door where my feet kicked against this thing at the very bottom of the door, like a high door jamb. And I stepped over it and went back toward the ramp, and I went down and opened my eyes and kept walking, and I saw my car, and the lights were out, and it was sitting down the road and very dark, and I couldn't understand. I had not turned off the lights, and I opened the door and felt for Delcy. Delcy's their little wiener dog. And I still, to this day, don't understand why the wiener dog was not put under hypnosis and interviewed. And I sat on the tire wrench, and I took it, removed it from the seat, and put it on the floor, and Betty was coming down the road, and she came around and opened the door. The doctor asked, "Was she alone?" She was alone, and she was grinning, and I thought at the time that she must have made a road stop in the woods. And she got into the car and said, "Well, no one will believe this," or I might have said it, because I said, No one, this is ridiculous, no one will believe it." And I was thinking what had happened, and that we were sitting there looking down the road, and I could see this glow get brighter and brighter, and we said, "Oh my God, not again." And away it went. And then I put the lights on and started the car and drove silently down the road. And I thought I must have driven 20 miles, and I came back to Route 3. What did you say to Betty? Betty said to me, well, do you believe in flying saucers? And I said, oh, Betty, don't be ridiculous. Did you tell her about your experience in this vehicle? The doctor said. I had forgotten the experience, Barney replied. Both Barney and Betty maintained under the stiffest questioning that their memories for these experiences were immediately wiped out after they left the vehicle, under the hypnosis restored them. You had forgotten? The doctor said. Yes. Did she tell you about her experience? No, she did not. Then neither of you spoke about your experiences in the vehicle? No. The doctor. Why not? He is fully aware that they have consciously claimed that they have no memory of their joint experiences, but he is continuing to test under hypnosis. Barney responds, I didn't remember it. I see. The memory had just been wiped out. Do you think that she had seen the vehicle? I don't know, Barney responded. And you don't know it today? No. All right, then, we'll stop here. All right, now here's another transcript from a different hypnosis state of Barney Hill. Like I said, last episode we focused on Betty Hill's transcripts. We're just going to focus on Barney's. This is from an original copy of The Interrupted Journey by Fuller, or by, let's see, it was by, John G. Fuller. And this is an original copy. I'm not sure how easy it is to find today. You could probably find reprints, but it was a decent book. I mean, it's very thick. It's a large book, but I read it pretty quickly because a lot of it's just transcripts. But very interesting. I believe in it personally. I spoke about what I feel about it on last episode. I think it's true because it gets into physical evidence of like a compass being put on the back of the car where there's like 3 or 4 radioactive spots and the compass spiraling. Barney had scuffs on his shoes where he had been drugged by the Greys onto the ship. There were several different little physical evidence things, and I don't know. It's just my personal belief. I believe it happened, And I mean, if you don't believe in aliens, it could have just been a government project, Who knows? Barney is still fully conscious and has not been yet put into a trance. The doctor says, also Betty has been troubled with dreams and nightmares. Barney responds, yes, she had been. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. He is going to press hard on the dream aspect now, both in conscious and trance parts of this session. And she told you about these things. She told you about these in ordinary conversation, the doctor said. Yes. Did you ever witness any of her nightmares? No, I had not. You were always asleep. Yes. Now you two sleep in a double bed? Yes, we do. Does Betty talk in her sleep? No, she doesn't. I wonder if a double bed, if that meant, because this was back in like the 60s, if that meant like separate beds. Which I know it sounds crazy, but they used to do that weird shit like back in the day, I guess. I don't know. I can't do it. If my wife started sleeping separately from me, I'd be like asking questions like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Doctor says, as far as you know, she doesn't. I know she doesn't, Barney says. She does not. Doctor responds. Or when I am awake sometimes and she's asleep, I've never heard her. You've never heard her talk in her sleep? No. Now when she describes these dreams, how much did she tell you about them? What did she tell you that she had dreamed of? Barney responds, she would tell me that somehow she is wondering if there is a reference or relationship of her dreams to the missing time period up there in the White Mountains. White Mountains, I believe they have a map in here. We discussed it last time. I think they were driving from New Hampshire to like Niagara Falls or somewhere around there. Let's see. Barney says, he thought it was interesting that the distance between Ashland and Indian Head, which is about 35 miles. He thought it was interesting. Oh, hang on. Now, when she described these dreams, how much did she tell you about them? The doctor says. What did she tell you she had dreamed? She would tell me that sometimes she is wondering if there's a reference, to the White Mountains. This missing time period is pointed out by Dr. Homan. The doctor asked. He thought it was interesting that the distance between Ashland and Indian Head, which is about 35 miles. He thought it was interesting that we could not recall anything about that part of the journey, and that I just couldn't seem to recall, and I thought I was properly driving my car. The doctor says, you hadn't been aware that the trip took an excessively long time? No, Barney responds. Only when Mr. Hoffman pointed it out did it seem to be the case? Barney responds, yes. He thought it was interesting when we heard these beeping sounds at Indian Head, and then we picked up the story by saying, and then we reached Ashland, we heard this beeping sound again, so he said, well, what happened in between the period of time, those 35 miles? And I just couldn't seem to recall. Then I realized that I had been driving for a period of time with no knowledge of passing anything or going down Route 3 in this section. Doctor says, did you pass any cars, meet any people? No, we didn't. So you were particularly impressed by this lapse of time? No, I wasn't. And Betty wasn't? All right. The doctor now proceeds to put Barney in a trance with the usual instructions. Now that Barney is in a trance, Barney says, I was hypnotized. Sorry, cat's freaking out in the back. You were hypnotized by whom? The doctor responds. By Dr. Simon. Yes, that's true, the doctor responds. But somebody told you something else about it. Who was that? Betty. And how did she tell you about it? She said that she had a dream that she had not been taken aboard a UFO, and that she had been taken aboard a UFO, and that I was with her in this dream and taken aboard. How did she tell you this? The doctor asked. Usually when someone was visiting and I just told her it was a dream and nothing to be alarmed about, she told me a great many of the details of the dreams. She would tell me that she had gone into the UFO and talked to people there on board, and she was told that she would forget. And she told these people in the UFO that she did not forget, and that I told her there were only dreams, and that I can't believe that, whatever these things are. But she says no, that somehow she feels there is a connection between these dreams and what happened, because she has never dreamed of UFOs before. And she would tell me that they stuck her with something in her navel. And she was not telling this to me, but I would be listening as she told this to Walter Webb, as she told about the UFO sighting that we had had. And then I would hear her dreams, but never did she tell me directly about her dreams. But she did tell you something about them, the doctor says. Only they had come into the room with my teeth, and they were quite startled that my teeth would come out and hers would not. So Barney had dentures, and the aliens, basically, that did freak him out. Like, how is his teeth coming out? And yours can't. And that would be, like, distressing if you're, like, extraterrestrial, and, like, you'd start coming to conclusions like, well, I guess only the females' teeth stay in. The men's can take their teeth out, you know. How about the other things you described to me? About what happened to you when they were examining you? Did she tell you about that? No, she never told me that. I was lying on the table and I felt them examining me. Is that part of Betty's dream? I am telling you exactly what happened. At the time Betty was telling about her dream, I was very puzzled because I never knew this happened. Now I have found out that it did. The doctor says, now all this dream about being taken aboard and all the details about it. This was all told to you by Betty, wasn't it? No, Betty never told me. Only about my teeth. Only about your teeth. How do you know this happened? I was hypnotized by Dr. Simon. He has made me go back to September 19th, 1961, when I left Montreal, and I told what was happening to me each time he asked. And I talked to the people I had never seen before, and I knew that I had seen a UFO, and I came to Indian Head and had gotten out of my car and walked toward this UFO. And I could not believe it was there, and yet I could not make it go away. Now Barney becomes emotionally upset. And I felt compelled to go closer, and I prayed to God to make me. He breaks down and sobs. The doctor says, "This won't trouble you now, just take it easy." Barney, a little calmer now, says, "And I prayed that I could get away and run back to the car, and I did. And the eyes kept following me back to the car, and I felt very, very upset. And I kept driving, and I made a turn, and I never knew the reason. And well, I made that turn, I turned left, and I found we were in a strange area where I'd never been before. And I was very uncomfortable, and somehow the eyes were following me, telling me that I could be calm, that I would not be harmed, that I should relax, and I saw these men coming down toward me." Now, what about these men on the road? Are you sure they were there? They were there. And I never knew this. I never knew this because I was hypnotized by Dr. Simon, and he told me I would relate this, and I related this. Doctor bluntly responds, "Did you dream this?" "No, I did not dream it." "You mean these men actually stopped you?" "Yes." "All right, go on from there." And I started to get out of my car, and I felt supported by two men, and my eyes were closed. "Just a minute. Didn't Betty tell you while you were asleep?" "No, Betty never told me this." "Didn't she have dreams of this and talk to you in her sleep?" "She has never told me this. I've never heard her tell me this. Betty said that we were inside a UFO in her dreams, not how we got there." "Yes, but didn't she tell you you were taken inside?" the doctor asked. "Yes, she did." Then she told you everything that was inside and about being stopped by these men?" the doctor asked. "No, she did not tell me about being stopped by the men. She did not have this in her dreams. This is only when I was hypnotized." The doctor asked, "Only when you were hypnotized?" "Yes, I saw this," Barney responds. "How do you account for this? How do you account for this happening? Do you really think this happened?" Barney responds, "It did happen. I don't know what to say. I don't want to remember it. I suppose I won't remember it." "Who told you you won't remember it?" "I was told in my mind that I would forget that it happened. It was imprinted on my mind." "Imprinted on your mind? Who told you?" Barney responds, "I thought it was the man I saw looking down at me, and I was looking back at him, and I thought it was him, and he told me that I should be calm, and that I should not be afraid, and that no harm would come to me, and that I would be left alone to go on my way, and that I would forget everything, and I would never remember it again." Doctor responds, "How do you account for the fact that you know nothing about Betty's experience, yet she seems to know everything about yours?" "I was not in the same room with her. I don't know where she is. I somehow felt relaxed. I thought it would be over soon and that no harm would come to us." Doctor responds, "You said you don't know what happened, but you also said that Betty told you about what happened in her dream." "She told me about herself. I do not know what happened to Betty on the highway, but I never believe her dreams." "If you don't believe her dreams, why do you believe yours?" "I never dream about UFOs until last Sunday. I had them on Sunday night, and on Tuesday night, and on Wednesday night. and this is the first time I have ever dreamed of UFOs, Barney responds. You told me some time ago that you felt disassociated when you saw this UFO. What did you mean by that? I felt that I had never known what this feeling was like, and I felt disassociated, as if my body moving and yet my thinking was separate from it. And I had never felt like this before in my life. And I felt disassociated, and I never experienced this feeling again until I was in your office, and you made a little doggy come out into the room, and I got hypnotized, and it made it seem like the doggy was really there. This was a hallucination then, wasn't it? The doctor asked. That was a hallucination, Barney responds. Then how about this story of being kidnapped? Couldn't that have been a hallucination too? Barney responds, I wish I could think it was a hallucination. Why couldn't it have been? I don't know, he responds. How about Mr. Webb suggesting to you that something must have happened with that time? Barney responds, Mr. Webb didn't suggest that. Mr. Webb did not suggest that something happened to me. Well, he pointed out some of your time was not accounted for, the doctor says. There was a period of time from Indian Head to Ashland, and I kept thinking that all I could remember was getting out on the highway at Indian Head. I could never remember except to run back to my car and drive away, and I did not know what I was doing from Indian Head to Ashland. Mr. Homan suggested that some of my time was not accounted for. Did you feel disassociated about this part of the experience? The doctor asked. I did not feel disassociated. I just didn't think about it. I did not feel anything except I had to have driven, and that is all I felt. And you're sure this actually happened? I feel very sure it happened. Did these men speak to you? Only the one I thought was the leader. The one you thought was the leader in the spaceship? Yes. What kind of language did he use? He did not speak by word. I was told what to do by his thoughts making my thoughts understand. Telepathy. And I could hear him, and I could not understand, and that I could understand him. And I was told that I would not be harmed. Was this some kind of mental telepathy? Asked the doctor. I'm not familiar with this term, Barney responds. Mental telepathy is being able to understand someone else's thoughts or having your thoughts understood by someone else. Barney responds, I could understand his thoughts. His thoughts came to me, like I feel your thoughts when you talk to me, that is. And I know you are there, and yet my eyes are closed, and you ask me questions, and I know you are there, but I don't know where. And this is how he told me that I would not be harmed, and that I would be let alone to go as soon as they had taken me to this room. And that I did not see him or hear his thoughts telling me I would not remember any of this because I was not harmed, and I wanted to forget. And he helped me to forget by telling me that this was what I wanted to do, and I did not remember any more. The doctor says, You told me that Betty tried to hypnotize you at one time. Barney responds, When we were standing on the highway in White Mountains and we stopped the first time to get a better look at this light that was moving through the sky coming towards us, I could see this happening and I said, It's a plane. And Betty said, Look how it's flying. Doctor says, You wanted to see the men in the road? I didn't want to see these men. When no harm came to you, did you feel better? I felt funny, and I could not remember, and yet I knew something had happened, and I was confused that I was off Route 3. I was driving back to Route 3, and I just could not understand why I went off of it. And shortly after that, we heard the beep, 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 and I kept quiet after that. Didn't Betty hypnotize you, the doctor asked. No, Betty did not hypnotize me. I wanted to think she was wrong about the object to make myself feel better, but I kept seeing this object in the sky, and I ran back to the car, and yet I knew it wasn't there. You knew it wasn't there? I knew it couldn't be real to have something like these eyes in my head. In your head? Yes, these eyes. The whole thing was in your head then? No. Why couldn't it be? I remember it just like I remembered everything up to when I stopped at Indian Head. I remember everything I did. Then I drove down the highway, and I went through North Woodstock, and then made a left turn, and Betty was looking at me sort of puzzled, and yet she did not question what I was doing. All I could sense was that she was thinking, and I said, I know what I'm doing all right. I know we're on the right road. Doctor says, what do you think she was thinking? You said you sensed what she was thinking. I thought she was thinking I had gone off the wrong highway, and that. Do you often sense her thoughts? Yes, we sometimes do this. We sometimes try to see if we can sense what the other one is thinking. It's not too effective. Doctor says, you've actually tried this to see if you could sense each other's thoughts? You practice at all? Well, when I was in Philadelphia, she would say that she would want me to call her. And she said that many times she would lie there in her room and say, call me, Barney, and then I would call her. Not that I thought that she had asked me to call, but I had already planned to call anyways, but she would say, you must have read my thoughts, because I was lying there hoping you would call. Could she have planted all these thoughts about the UFO in your mind? You said that she wanted to hypnotize you, said the doctor. I know Betty didn't hypnotize me. I wanted to think she had hypnotized me. I wanted to think that the object wasn't there. And that's why I said, what are you doing, Betty? Trying to hypnotize me? And since I kept saying it was a plane, I wanted her to say, yes, it's a plane. And then we'd drive on, but it kept following us. And I did not like that. I knew it was very peculiar that a plane would follow a car down the highway like that. And I hoped it was not there. And I did not want it to be there. And yet, it kept staying and going down this highway with us. How do you know that it was going to capture you? I could see this thing very, very much closer, and I too was walking closer, and I saw it was not like a ramp, but a low object coming down from the bottom of it. I could see this through the binoculars. I thought of a ladder, but I didn't really know what it was, except that something was coming down from it, and the wings that were slid out were not like the wings of a plane, but more like a military bat type of wing. It slid out. You mean the wing slid out of the fuselage? It did not have a fuselage type shape, and as the wings began sliding out, the red lights began moving away, and I noticed that there was an extension of the wings, and as I was able to break away and run back to the car. What was the shape of this? The doctor asked. If it wasn't a fuselage shape, what kind of shape was it? It had more of an oval pie plate type shape. Betty described it as a cigar shape, the doctor says. When it was soaring in the sky, it gave the appearance of a cigar, because I thought it was a passenger plane because the longness of it. But then it was off in the distance, and only when it came close did I notice what I thought was a straight row of lights on the plane turned out to be a curved type of series of lights. All right now, we'll stop there unless you have anything further, and this will not trouble you. All right, so that's the end of that session. I think we'll end it there, but that's Barney's accounts. Couple hypnotized sessions of Barney. We did Betty's. I'll leave a link in the end of this episode so you can go and check it out. Obviously, I'm not going to read the entire book to you. This is a podcast, not an audiobook, but we could probably do maybe some more episodes on Betty and Barney Hill. Honestly, I just wanted to do a follow-up because I knew we did Betty's encounter last time, and I wanted to do Barney's in separate so I can kind of show you guys, like, they weren't hypnotized together, and it kind of helps the story along and make it a little more believable to know that these people hypnotized separately, giving different accounts, and I don't know, that they weren't really cooperating. Barney actually didn't even want to remember. He didn't want to go to therapy. He didn't want to remember. It kind of scarred him. He didn't want to talk about it. Betty, was the one who seemed to be very into it and interested and curious and wanting to talk about it. And so I don't know. I think that kind of helps make the story a little more believable. But that's it for today. I hope you all have a good day.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.